Space is a vast and wondrous place, but it is also full of baffling irregularities and aberrations to its continuum that our tiny ape and lizard brains just aren't evolved enough to properly comprehend. Other species like the Vulcans seem to have a better time of it, but then again, they're not always as tough as they would have us believe. Spatial anomalies truly exist all around us, ready to blow our minds at any second. Prepare to have yours just a little bit twisted. With all that in mind, I'm Tom Roberts-Finn for TrekCulture, here with the 10 most mind-bending spatial anomalies. Number 10. Graviton Lipse, or the kitchen sink anomaly. You can call it what you want, Spatial Anomaly 521 if you prefer the Borg designation, or the kitchen sink anomaly as Commander Chakotay nicknamed it. But Graviton Lipse, as per the Federation database, will still be a giant glowing ball of subspace energy that can emerge into normal space whenever and wherever it pleases. It's most certainly no solar flare, and it's definitely more than a little turbulence. The most mind-altering aspect of this particular phenomenon is not its sheer size and intensity. What is truly weird is that of all the graviton ellipses and all the quadrants of the galaxy, Voyager stumbled on the one that consumed the Ares 4 command module over Mars in 2032. What no one knew until then was that Lieutenant John Kelly, commander of the Ares 4 mission, had survived for quite some time inside the graviton ellipse. Humanity's first encounter with the spatial anomaly, no less. 31 years before the Vulcans officially showed up, Kelly also got the universe-unraveling shock of his life when he saw the wreckage of an alien ship float past the window. Number 9. Spatial Interface, or the shouty Chekhov anomaly. The original series episode The Tholian Web is a wild ride and stands out as one of the best of its somewhat rocky third and final season. Of course, the mind-bending anomaly at its centre provided material for a set of episodes decades later, the Star Trek Enterprise two-parter In a Mirror Darkly. It was the Tholians in that universe who were responsible for creating the interphasic rift in the first place. As regards to Captain Kirk and crew, they were on search of a rescue mission for the missing USS Defiant, not that one, which they find glowing a fluorescent green trapped in an area of interspace where a universe and the alternate overlapped. The Defiant doesn't even show up on sensors, but they beam over anyway to find that its crew have succumbed to a murderous rage. In Dr. McCoy's words, the Defiant then starts dissolving as it goes through another interface, and Kirk is ultimately left behind. The mind-altering madness then goes full-on crazier than a box of Nick Locanos. The interspace starts affecting the molecular structures of the brain tissues of the crew of the Enterprise. Chekhov has to be strapped to a biobed. That's not to mention Kirk's ghostly, floaty, interphasic apparitions after his memorial service. Number 8. Chrono Kinetic Spatial Rift, or the Seska Never Stays Dead anomaly. Voyager seemed to be especially unlucky when it came to catastrophically world-warping anomalies. This time, how about one that looks like a gaping, angry wound on the otherwise smooth flesh of space? The sudden chronokinetic surge this spatial rift spits forth then shatters the space-time continuum throughout Voyager and inside Chakotay as well. For a moment there, the commander had the liver of an 80-year-old man and the kidneys of a 12-year-old boy. All that's just a regular day at the office compared to the Starfleet Christmas party of chaos that comes next. The whole thing is basically Voyager's greatest hits album. Buy now before temporal realignment. On the bridge, Voyager is still in the Alpha Quadrant, while down in astrometrics, Naomi and Icheb are all grown up. The most difficult thing to get your mind around when it comes to temporal anomalies is what happens next. As Captain Janeway puts it after the normal space-time continuum is restored, it's strange thinking there's a piece of your life you don't know anything about. Number 7. Subspace Divergence Field, or the Harry Kim's Ghost Anomaly. It could have been your regular trip through a plasma drift to avoid the local organ harvest, but it turned into something altogether out of the ordinary. When a nasty bit of subspace turbulence hits Voyager, the warp engines stall and main power fails. Before B'Elanna can start a proton burst infusion, the ship is hit with proton bursts. This is one freaky-deaky plasma cloud, and one hell of a cold open. Even more mind-bogglingly mind-bending, Cass disappears through a spatial rift on Deck 15, Harry Kim dies, and Captain Janeway's, see a ghost image of each other on the bridge. We switch to another Voyager where everything is relatively normal, aside from the power drain and the extra Kess. The divergence of subspace fields duplicated every particle of matter, but not antimatter on the ship. If you can wrap your mind around it, both ships actually existed at the same point in space-time, pulling power from the same warp core. Number 6. Delphic Expanse Anomaly, Twilight, or the T'Pol Archer Hair Budget Anomaly. The most mind-bending expanse anomaly, quite literally for poor Captain Archer, was surely the one that carried with it a collection of microscopic parasites in a state of interspatial flux. These little devils from another dimension lodged themselves inside Archer's hippocampus, impairing synaptic function, leading to anterograde amnesia. Things went from bad to crap to worse from there. The captain was unable to form new long-term memories post-infection and was so eventually relieved of command. Without his unique way of doing things, the mission failed. Earth was destroyed, then T'Pol grew her hair out and moved with Archer to some planet called Ceti Alpha 5. I've never heard of it. That was until they discovered that Phlox's treatment, devised over years of research, had not only eradicated the parasites in the present, but also in the past. Although, if a parasite cluster was never there in the first place, how and why did they notice the change on the previous scans? If your mind's not blown already, then get ready for the explosive, or rather implosive, warp core solution that rids Archer of the parasites and resets the timeline. Number 5, a highly localized distortion of the space-time continuum, or the tossed salads and scrambled eggs anomaly. It's one of the most mind-blowinglyest, starship-explodinglyest cold opens in Star Trek history, and it's all thanks to a spatial, and especially temporal, anomaly. If your brain isn't already bent out of all proportion at seeing the Enterprise D reduced to rubble before the credits roll, you should hang on a little tighter to the back of that chair at Ops. The Enterprise D is charting the Typhon expanse, and the crew experience deja vu all over again. And again, and again, and again. Dr. Crusher's hearing voices and smashing glasses in her quarters, LaForge is feeling familiarly queasy, and ship's poker becomes particularly repetitive. At the end and the beginning of each temporal casualty loop is Bateson on the Bozeman, emerging from the anomaly to collide with the Enterprise until Data finally realizes that 3 really is the magic number. The Enterprise D chronometers are off by 17.4 days, but for the pre-Fraser-Kelsey grammar, it's been 90 years. Number 4, Subspace Compression Anomaly, or the Honey, I Shrunk the Runabout Anomaly. We're in the middle of an intergalactic war with an enemy hell-bent on conquest. But let's stop off and investigate a weird anomaly. As anomalies go, and without Rick Moranis on hand, little is more mind-bending than being miniaturized via subspace compression. I bet the shrinking of the space within your subatomic structure actually tickles a little, although Chief O'Brien claimed not to feel a thing as he was being condensed to half the size of a comm badge. The trippiest part is seeing the runabout Rubicon and its Lilliputian trio whiz through the corridors and conduits of the now supremely oversized Defiant. Firing on the Jem'Hadar with an itsy-bitsy photon torpedo was a nice touch, before the plot takes a dive down the rabbit hole into the marvels of Star Trek Wonderland as 1 centimeter tall O'Brien and Dr. Bashir beam inside a circuitry compartment to assist their commandeered crewmates. Number 3, the Nexus, or the I wish it could be Christmas every day anomaly. As we saw in Star Trek Generations, the Nexus is an anomaly that doesn't merely mess with time and space, destroying ships and planets in its wake as it cuts a path through the Milky Way. It also screws with the minds of anyone unlucky enough to encounter it. Everlasting bliss wrapped up in a blanket of pure joy might seem like an enticing prospect, but if you surrender to it, it will drive you to obsession. We don't know what Sauron experienced exactly when he was inside the Nexus, but it must have been damn good as he was willing to scheme and slaughter his way back to it. As a member of species with lifespans of countless centuries who apparently only age when they want to, Soren sure was overly tetchy about the possible ravages of time. The wackiest part of the Nexus anomaly has to be Jean-Luc's 19th century style family Christmas with a remnant or echo of Guinan as a surprise dinner guest. Guinan is both on the Enterprise D and B and in the Nexus at the same time. How the Nexus does all of this is never explained, but at least Guinan didn't go Soren level insane in the process. And if Kirk could have gone back at any point in history upon leaving, why didn't he make it a flippin' Tuesday? Number 2, Subspace Fold, or the Kling Pop Anomaly. This Subspace Fold really changes everything. Well, at least it could have. Eerily beautiful as it stretched away from the Enterprise into the infinities of the universe, the anomaly initially showed promise for drastically boosting the Federation's subspace communication capacities. However, rather than subspace broadband, it was off Broadway for the crew. Just be thankful it didn't happen on the Cerritos or with Dr. Tiana on board. We might have got that butthole cut of cats. The melomania only begins when Pelia suggests music as a test transmission method through the fold. Uhura's choice of Anything Goes might as well be the title of the the episode, but it's all in good fun. They've certainly no one but themselves to blame. One quantum uncertainty / improbability field from the Fold later, and everyone's up singing and dancing their hearts out like it's the callback auditions for Juilliard. There is dramatic tension in amongst the high notes too. As the improbability effect spreads, the Klingons threaten to destroy the Subspace Fold, but this would wipe out all the Federation and half the Empire with it. Of course, we are also treated to the highly hilarious and impeccably choreographed Kling Pop number from General Garkog and crew. Number 1. AntiTime Eruption, or the 3 nacelles anomaly. To use a popular saying here at TrekCulture, what really burns our biscuits is when the word of a Starfleet captain is not taken at face value. After all the years, decades, centuries of experiencing the oddest of anomalies, you'd think no officer would ever doubt a captain's time travel tale and just get right to the investigating. But no, Act 1 or more is often still spent telling them it's probably part of a syndrome and asking if it was all maybe, possibly just a dream. All Good Things is no doubt the finest series finale there is, but the anomaly at the centre of its story is a lot to get your head around. There was an AntiTime Eruption, or a multiphasic temporal convergence in the SpaceTime Continuum, that was smaller in the future and bigger in the past. In fact, it was so large in the past, 3.5 billion years in the past to be precise, that it covered the entire Alpha Quadrant, preventing the formation of life on Earth. On the USS Relativity, they would probably call this the Pogo Paradox, in which intervention to prevent an event actually triggers the same event. Picard intervened to stop the anti-time anomaly by initiating an inverse tachyon beam to scan it in the 3 different time frames, but the convergence of the tachyon beams was the cause of the anomaly. Moreover, Picard couldn't have travelled in time to do any of that without the help of Q, but wasn't it the Continuum who ordered the trial without the helping hand in the first place? No wonder Picard has his head in his hands by the end. And that was the 10 most mind-bending spatial anomalies. Make sure to like and share the video and subscribe if you haven't already, and tap the notification bell to be alerted of future videos. If you can think of anything that we may have missed, then let us know down in the comments. You can find us on Twitter at TrekCulture and on Instagram at TrekCultureYT. You can also find our podcast, which I host alongside Sean Ferrick, on various podcast apps. If you want to keep up to date with what I'm doing, which includes writing a gothic fantasy series, then you can find me on Twitter at TomCFinn and on various other socials as well. Thanks for watching, and until next time, bye bye.